Hello, friends. This is Wendy, and I'm in long sleeves again. Oh, and I have a paper cut for obvious reasons. Play with paper, you get cut, right? Anyway, I am trying to decide whether to use this clear tacky glue, which they say works on absolutely everything, or my favorite PVA glue, which doesn't talk about fabric at all. It says for paper, board, framing, collage, craft, and bookbinding. So I'm thinking I probably want to use this. I'm going to try something different. So this one, if you saw my video from yesterday, this one I put tape, which is holding very well, by the way, and folded around so that I would not have loose ends. But I don't know that I like it. Now that I've done it, I'm not sure I like it. So I'm going to try something different. And I guess I'm going to try a different glue even. If I can get this off. See, this is why you wear long sleeves, right? So you can do things like that. All right. I do know that this works on plastic really well because we had a plastic bird house. It's decorative. It was whimsy. It goes in our front yard. And we used this to glue up the hole that was in it. Anyway, I can't remember what we were going. We had to, in order to screw it onto the wooden post that we had outside, we had to put a block of wood inside from the bottom. That's what we had to do. Okay, so I think I'm just going to go kind of this way. I do have a little more fabric if I make a mistake, but I don't have a lot more fabric, so we'll see. And on these corners, well, I might as well just put a little bit here for this corner. Okay. Make sure all the corners go down. That one is. Okay, so this is going to be a little trickier because I don't want to cut the tie back with my good sewing scissors. I may need to just, I don't know. Would my guillotine cut that well? This is what I'm doing. We will just see how it all goes, right? So once I have finished making this, I will see which of these two I like better. I don't think I'm going to throw away either one of them. I think I'll use whichever one I like least on the inside where it really doesn't matter, and keep the other one on the outside. So, by the way, I guess I forgot to mention, so I'm Wendy. I am a paper crafter. I have been doing paper crafting since I was quite young. And I'm also a scrapbooker. I've been scrapbooking since I was in high school. Of course, the scrapbooking that people do now is so very different. It's so very different, right? Because not only is there the paper crafting scrapbookers, but there's also then digital. There's just so much you can do different today, whatever, makes you the happiest. So I love scrapbooking, and pretty much everything that I attempt turns into a scrapbook. So I have not yet figured out how to do a really true junk journal style. And maybe I'm just not a junk journaler. I mean, there's a lot of techniques, though, that I have already learned by watching people do junk journaling that I use in my scrapbooking, and I use it in my other crafts. So, I mean, it's definitely beneficial, but maybe I'm just not going to be your typical junk journalist. So I will continue to try. So, wow. Well, it's not fair because this one has this cardboard on it, which I could pull off and do another one like this. But I think this would be almost as bulky. The other thing is I did not glue this down, but when we poke through, oh, now I have more decisions. You have learned that I do not like making decisions. Well, I made a decision. It took a minute, but I made it. So if I do this as the inside, then I will glue this down. This time I will use my PVA glue. So I do have to leave a bit of space. And I'm going to use this to measure my space. So I guess, oh, that's not what I want. I want a pencil. Thought I had one on my desk. I probably do. Oh, there it is. Grabbed a new one though. So I'm going to draw this line. This is my first one. When I've done like 20, I may have a totally different way of doing this. But for now, this is my first one. And I want this to be right. Okay. Oh, it did well enough. Okay, so. Why does this make me nervous? Does this make you nervous? Be nervous for me. Okay. Because I don't like making mistakes. Both of my parents are school teachers. Well, they both passed on. They live in heaven. But they were perfectionists, especially for me. I mean, not that they were perfectionists in themselves, but for me, I had to be kind of like, I had to be perfect, you know? I mean, they wanted to teach me right the very first time, which I guess every parent wants to do that, right? You know, that their child is, you know. But we learn from first of all, we learn from our mistakes. Boy, oh boy, that is the message of the century, right? We learn from our mistakes. Got to have them in order to learn. And also, I think it's made me a little afraid of making mistakes, but instead of embracing them. And this is kind of my thing now is I feel like we should be embracing our mistakes. It's all about learning and growing, and we really, you don't learn if you never make a mistake. You never have anything to learn from it. It's just perfect the first time out of the gate, and that's really not realistic. So I don't know why I said all that. And I'm probably going to leave it in here because I'm certainly not going to do this step again. I only have one book and only one try. So there you go. Now you know. I'm wondering if I should put something heavy on here. Well, or maybe I should just glue this down now. You know what I just realized? People usually kind of make it go around, which means I'd have to, do I have enough fabric? I do. So that it covers the top. That just dawned on me. So I'm going to go back to the drawing board and I will be back. Okay, so I made a decision. I don't know how much of this, whatever is left over, is going to be scraps anyway. So let's see. They are 8 inches. So if I make this 4, make a little more than 4 from the top. And then I can just make that decision as I go on the bottom. Okay, I'm going to try this again. And we decided that the tacky glue was pretty good, but I am going to get a little closer to the edges. This is so much thicker than the PVA glue. And then I actually cut this piece of Tyvek ever so slightly bigger than 4 inches. And I did not cut off because it was an 8.5 inch piece of paper, right? So this is 8.5 instead of 8. And then what I'm going to do is, after this is glued down, then I'm going to cut it to size, and then it will be square. And I think I will be happier. So I'm kind of figuring it out as I go. I watched a businessman on YouTube the other day, and he was talking about how, you know, you gotta, if you're just learning from books, then you're learning what somebody else taught. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, right? You know? But it's when you start to figure things out for yourself, when you start, you know, figuring it out and on your own, and maybe coming up with a whole different way, something new, something different. That's when, I can't remember what his point was, but he felt that that was good. And I remember hearing that going, okay, so I can figure this out on my own, since I can't find somebody that's doing it exactly the way I want to do it. Okay. Well, I'm going to give this a minute to dry, and I'm going to then cut it on my guillotine cutter. This is not staying down there, but I'm going to cut that off. Yeah, that's where I'm going to cut. No, I'm not. I can't cut that off. Oh, I totally made a mistake. It'll be all right. Wendy wasn't thinking. Okay, I will cut this at 4. So some of this will go over the top, and that'll be okay. And we will go on from there. Okay, I'll tell you what I did. I got my rotary cutter out of storage. I really did. And my cutting mat, I cut cutting mat out, and I got a cutting ruler, a quilting cutting ruler out. And I cut this down to 4 inches, which is what we said we kind of wanted it at. And I'm going to glue this down first, and then I will glue the inside down. Haha. Okay, so I just learned, as I was getting ready to flip this over, I just learned that I need to let this dry before I flip it over. So we will be back after this is dried. Okay, I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but I have this stuff called Super Tape. And this stuff is really, really strong. And when nothing else holds, this does. So I'm definitely learning for my next project that I will just put the Super Tape down first, because this still, when I go like this, okay, still comes apart. So it's double-sided, and I'm just going to put it right on the edge here. I might do a second piece. My little snips. Okay, I had success on the first side. So I'm going to do this again on the second side. I think this is a smart way of doing it. So I will put it down here. And then go across. Pull out snips. Ended up using my trusty tweezers. There we go. I don't know if you can tell. This is a very thick gel type tape. And I'm thinking doing it like this is okay. So note to self, what I did, thinking, leaving the extra bit of the Tyvek on, thinking that it would be, good for me to just cut it all off. It's not really the best way to do this. So my husband just walked in, so I'll be back. Okay, first of all, let me just say, this was a great learning opportunity, right? We're just going to say that. We're going to say, you know what? It's a learning opportunity, and things work out. At least well enough. My husband came in and was like, so what are you doing? Because I was trying to snip, because that Tyvek is really tight. So maybe I can get it to go this way. I was trying to snip it, and he was like, well, I never make mistakes. Of course he does all the time. So we got a good laugh out of that. But I do think I'm going to do this again on this side. So what I did was I pulled up and I used these tweezers that I almost never use, but because they're so new and tight, they really work well at pulling this up. Then I've cut off this. So, do what I say and not what I do, right? That was definitely one of my parents' things that they said. Learn from my mistake. But also, let me just say one more thing. Make mistakes. Make mistakes and learn from them. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can make some mistakes. You can and still move forward and not have to be all sad that it wasn't perfect. I think I'm going to do a bit of this heavy-duty tape up at the top. I think that's a smart thing to do. And then hopefully this doesn't take me a half hour to get this off. Anyway.
Did you get it?
Oh, so that's my husband. And I'm working on this still. You can put your hands in there. You go like this. You go, hello.
Hello.
There you go. All right. Okay. And if you can hear my dishwasher in the background, well, we have dishes, right? Dishes happen. Let me tell you what I did, and let me tell you what I learned. So I'll pull this up real quick. So one thing that I learned is that I don't need that one piece that I did with the Tyvek and then I put the tape around it and tucked it under. I don't need that. I could have put a piece of Tyvek and I would have put it ever so slightly smaller, so maybe 3 3/4 of an inch, and then made the outside one 4. The outside one looks fine when the book is closed, which is fine. And I know it's a little crooked. I did that on purpose because only God is perfect, right? Okay, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to that. Then I would have just put the Tyvek enough to cover, not to go over the top of this, but to cover the front part, and then put it over and then glued down. So there's an extra layer of fabric that is really unnecessary on this one, but it's going to be fine. So then the next thing that I did is I cut a piece of paper that was 8 by 2.5, and I now have it lined up with the cardboard that is inside. And I'm taping it down. I wrote top because that's important to write top on there. And I'm taping it down. I'm going to be pulling it up when I actually do my stitching. I like a 5-point or 5-hole pamphlet stitch. A lot of people do 3-hole, and I've done 3-hole many times, but on a book of this size, I want it to be 5. All right, this is my favorite string. I get it on Amazon. It is waxed. And that's the main thing, is that it not only is sturdy, it is waxed. And I think I just put in for like bookbinding. Oh, one more thing I need. Okay, these are called binding clips. And they are really important for what we're going to do right now. I might need my awl. We'll see. I'll just set that aside up there, move that out of the way. I won't need that. And then what you want is a needle with a pretty big eye. Now, this eye is really big, and I probably don't need that one. I probably want this one right here. Okay. Put the rest in here. This came with a little kit, as I mentioned before, and it's nice to have this little tube to keep your needles in. Okay, let me show you what's happened so far and what I have learned from this and what I've remembered from other things that I've done. I just got to the point where I felt like I know so much of what I'm doing. I can get on the internet and I can teach this. But this is my 3rd one, so we're gonna do the 4th one, hopefully together. Couple of things I would do, definitely do different. I don't think I would poke my awl in there before I get started. Now, if this was all paper, no problem. But fabric hides the holes, which has become slightly problematic. So, one thing that I've learned, and again, so I wrote top on here, which is, I remember now why it's essential. But let me fold this down so that you make sure that you're getting them all hopefully really close to being in the right place. So let me find the center of this one. I'm going to use my binder clips again. I am not going to clip it to the book. I have found that that was not enjoyable. And the first one went actually pretty well. The rest of them I've had some struggles with. But the third one I learned enough on there that I feel like I can get on here and show you the fourth one. So I would just do this. In fact, that's what I'll do. And I will refer to this book, this video, before I do my friend's little golden book. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I've got a nice, good crease here, and I'm going to poke through. Okay, so that's the first one. There's the second one. There's the next one. Make sure I've got the first one where it went. So with the paper, you can see so much easier. But where I'm personally having problems is with the fabric, because then I can't see where I poked before. And I feel like a stooge, one of the three stooges, right? Or, I don't know. So this is a lesson in humility, I guess. Don't get on here and think, I know everything. I know everything about this, because I really don't. I did tell you this was my first little golden book. It will not be my last. One of the best parts about having to do 4 signatures is that I learned a lot on my third one. Okay, so now I'm going to put this one back into the first one. I'm going to keep it there. And I have another picky tool. There it is. It's not as long, so it's actually not as helpful, but so I can get that in there. So these are all now where they need to be. Actually, I need to get rid of the paper. Okay, so there, and there, and there. So now, and you got to do this without stabbing yourself, so that's a fun thing. But I did make holes. I even see that one right there. So there's my first hole. So I'm going to keep that there for a second. And I'm going to see if I can find this hole. And I did. Look at that. I've got 2 holes there. So now I just need to find this hole. Oh, and I did. There we go. Okay. So now I am going to thread my thread. And I went with a longer needle. I found that to be a little more helpful than the smaller needle. The eyes are the same size. And so once again, so now I'm going to kind of start here. Well, I'm going to take that out actually. So I'm going to start with this hole here. And I can see that hole there. And now I can go through. And that was really helpful. Okay. So now I need to see, this little one isn't very helpful. Maybe a needle would be more helpful in keeping it going all the way through. So let's see if I can find that hole. I can feel it. I can see it. There we go. I'm going to leave my needle there and try not to be stabbed. So now, take my awl again and find that hole there and make sure I'm going through a hole here, or I will punch another hole, which is what I guess I'm doing. So maybe in the future I would not do 2 pieces of cardboard. Maybe in the future I would only do, where'd that go? I would only do 1, because that is part of the problem that I'm having right now. Oh, there's that hole. Okay, there we go. So now let's find this second hole here. I see it. One thing I have seen people do, there we go, is use eyelets. And I used to think, why would you need to use eyelets? Why would you waste your time on eyelets? Now, eyelets sound like a really good idea, although I'd have to have a really big eyelet to go through all of this. So that is part of a problem. There's that hole. So now I know where that one is. The paper one I can see. It's the fabric one I can't, but oh, I found it. Okay. So now I've got to go back through this hole. And I'm going to like pull it out and look and make sure that I can get into that hole there. Did I split my thread? I sure did. I don't want to do that. I had problems with that earlier and I had to cut it all out. Okay. Now I'm going to go over to this hole. And I can see the hole in the fabric. Let's see if I can get it to... I can see it. There we go. Oh my gosh. So this one went so much easier than the other ones. I actually was like, oh, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to like throw all the videos that I've made of this one away and just not share it because I am having so much trouble with it. But we're not out of the woods yet, right? So let's see. That one went really easy. Oh my goodness, that one went easy. So now it's just that last hole, and I did have problems with the last one that I did in finding, oh, look at that though, that one went in easy. So I'm not going to give up. There we go. Grab snips. Make sure this is tight back here. It is. Okay. Wow, and I will definitely watch this before I bind the other one. And do I have a problem? No. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Oh wait, okay, let's see. See how I can do this without having the ring in the way, the ring light. I keep calling it just a ring. Okay. I'm gonna blame my experience today on the dark side. On, you know, the fact that my son is a Sith and wanted a Sith book. Because if he was on the light side, you know, this would not have happened. However, let me just show you the final product. Okay, not perfect, but you can tell this is the one I had the most trouble with. But I'm not worried about that. The rest are pretty good. And I've done other journals before, obviously not this and not with this big piece of cardboard in there. And I've also seen others where having it not be perfect is kind of the thing. So I I mentioned already, it does pop open here, so they call that a gator. I probably will put a little cord to wrap around. I would love tips on how to not have my ring light in the way. Although the fact that this is shiny makes, and it's a Sith. Okay, shiny and Sith. This was Grogu, everything would have been just fine. I will do a total run through of it, showing every page on another video. But for today, we are done. Boy, are we done. I know this wasn't a very good teaching on how to do the binding. I was just struggling with that. But it all worked out. The pages are in there. They're sturdy. I learned some valuable lessons towards my next book. So that's a good thing. I'm not trying to sell this to anybody, so that's a good thing. Anyway, if you held out to the end of all my strugglings and you liked this video, or you just want to make my day, please hit the like button and please ring the notification bell and please subscribe so that I feel redemption in this endeavor here. So have a wonderful day.